Welcome to the Connecting the Dots podcast, Communication Theory at Work and Your Life. I'm your host, Yanni, and today we're diving into the power of storytelling with a special focus on the narrative paradigm theory. Stories are everywhere, from the books we read to the posts we see on social media. But why are stories so powerful in shaping our beliefs and decisions? To help us explore this, I'm excited to introduce today's guest, Tabitha Rogala. Tabitha is a fellow student who has been studying narrative paradigm theory this semester. We'll discuss how this theory applies to real life, from personal experiences to professional settings. So whether you're a storyteller at heart or just curious about why stories stick with us, this episode is for you. Welcome to the show. Can you explain narrative paradigm theory in your own words, and how does it differ from traditional models of communication?
Yeah, so the theory of communication says that humans understand and share their experiences through stories. Unlike traditional models, people kind of make meaning out of their world by telling and listening to stories instead of just relying on facts and figures. So the narrative paradigm emphasizes emotions and personal connections rather than data.
Great. So why do you think stories are often more persuasive than facts?
There's a couple reasons. I feel that stories can make more of an emotional connection, which helps the viewers care more about the message. And then people can often see parts of themselves within stories, which kind of creates more of a relatability aspect to it. Stories can be more memorable than facts and statistics because of that connection. And there's even stories that can kind of help people see things from a different perspective by creating a different way to view like a challenge outside of what they're used to.
Great. In your opinion, are there any downsides to relying heavily on storytelling and communication? And could it lead to misinformation or manipulation?
Yeah, so because stories create that emotional connection, sometimes those connections can override logic. So people, truth is subjective and they vary based on the viewer. So truth and meaning can be pulled from a story differently depending on who is viewing it. Appealing to a person's emotions can lead to manipulation, especially if it's used to push a specific agenda. So storytelling can lead to targeted viewers receiving a very specific message, even if that message may not be justified with factual information, which can always be dangerous.
How do you see narrative paradigm theory playing out in everyday life, especially in this age of social media?
Through personal communication, we always try to find ways to relate to other people and make connections. So a lot of people use storytelling to make those connections. Through the news and marketing, they tend to pull our emotions into these stories. Sometimes politicians will even make story connections with the people that they want to vote for them. I think social media is a really big one because everything is so social right now, that making connections with followers and even kind of creating a personal online identity can be achieved through storytelling. And then one that resonates with me personally is through education. So being a teacher, I make daily connections with my students through storytelling just to solidify their understanding for them to be able to make relations.
Have you noticed any situations where a story was more effective in changing someone's mind than logical arguments? And could you share an example of that?
Of course. So like I said, I'm an educator, so storytelling is really big in education. So I see this a lot with my students. Our school uses something called the Leader in Me 7 habits seven habits of highly effective people. And we use that to engage our students in behaviors that demonstrate leadership. So we found that our students can have a hard time grasping some of the more challenging concepts, but if we make them relatable through stories, it helps them to make a personal connection to them. So then we spend a few weeks at a time focusing on a single habit We share as many relatable stories as possible with them to make sure that each student has the opportunity to form a connection with it. And it's a much more effective way than just telling them what the habit is and what the expectation is, and then expecting them to demonstrate it.
Great, that's a wonderful example. How can understanding narrative paradigm theory help us become better communicators, whether in personal relationships or professional environments?
So framing messages as narratives increases their impact. It can help us communicate across different cultures because storytelling doesn't necessarily need words. So for example, videos and advertisements often just use images to tell a story rather than words. And we know that through this theory, it shows that people are generally storytellers and we make connections through stories. So it can help us jump from culture to culture because as a whole, people can relate to stories. So it can also help us understand different perspectives that we might not be able to imagine through words that we can through a narrative.
Great, that was amazing perspective. Thank you, Tabitha, for sharing your insights on the narrative paradigm theory. It's fascinating to see how stories influence our daily interactions and shape the way we understand the world. From personal experiences to professional settings, storytelling truly is a powerful tool. For our listeners, we hope this episode has given you a new perspective on the role of narratives in communication. Don't forget to subscribe to the Connecting the Dots podcast for more episodes exploring how communication theories impact our lives. Until next time, keep sharing your stories.
Thank you.